Namaste, namaste. Welcome to the live today. Welcome to Amber Jean's Yoga World, where we talk yoga, we talk rocket, we talk Emerson yoga, we talk the latest trends, we talk about debunking different things about yoga, and all those good things. So, my name is Amber Jean, and I've been instructing it as of this May. I graduated my teacher training in May, 26 years. And during these 26 years, I've had the opportunity to travel the world and instruct yoga. And it's been we always said, a wild rocket ride. How does a little girl that grew up in Cincinnati end up traveling the world and instructing yoga? Well, it's kind of funny how it all really began. It began basically with a prophecy that I would become a yoga instructor, and that was from a mentor of mine who recommended me to meet Larry Schultz. And I went out to San Francisco, where I lived at Larry Schultz's San Francisco studio, It's Yoga, for 28 days. And that was where I learned the original rocket sequences. That was where I developed a consistent practice. Okay. And what transpired after that over the next decade was me traveling from Cincinnati to San Francisco, and as well as Vancouver. So we've talked a little bit on this channel about my journey to San Francisco, but let's talk about some of the other travels. So in the year 2001, we had 9/11 here in the United States. And that was when Larry Schultz decided he had to get out of the United States. So he had a vision to open a studio in Vancouver, Canada. Okay. And the vision was is that he would be able to be in Canada 6 months and San Francisco 6 months. So as soon as I heard that Larry had a studio in Vancouver, I packed up my backpack with my baby and my partner, and we flew up to Vancouver. And it was quite a yoga scene up there. These people were very strong, and there was a very good yoga vibe, but it did not last long. So basically, what happened to me is traveling and teaching went hand in hand. As soon as I had taken my first training, I was already traveling back and forth from San Francisco. Okay. So traveling in yoga was very natural to me. And I don't know if a lot of you know this, that the original rocket system was meant to only be taught at It's Yogas. And Larry Schultz started a yoga franchise called It's Yoga. And there was It's Yogas in Firenze, Italy, or Florence, Italy. There was It's Yogas in Stockholm, Sweden, Nicaragua, Vancouver, and various other places in Europe. So after Larry passed, which was in 2011, he left his body, and he entrusted me with carrying on the rocket teachings and blessed me to share rocket training, which since I've changed the name to Emerson Yoga to differentiate between all the other stuff that's happening in Rocket, and differentiate between what I'm personally doing in the carrying on the teachings. And as well as it's not just about, about carrying on the traditional rocket. It's also about carrying on all my experience from traveling and teaching, and also running my studio. Okay. So thank you so much for joining the live today. We're tuning in from Cincinnati, my home base. And so it was around 2014 that I got contacted from some yogis in England, of all places. And these yogis in England, they had wanted to start their own little studio, and they wanted someone to come out to offer rocket in Brighton, England. And so this was very, very exciting news for me, because I had been working so hard on creating the program after Larry Schultz passed, that I immediately took them up on their offer. And this was really one of the first times that you would see the rocket teacher training being taught in England. And if it was being taught, it was on the very much of the fringe. It was a very fringe activity in London. And I got invited to go to Brighton. And that was where I facilitated a 5-day rocket 50-hour intensive teacher training. And what's interesting is some of those students that were in that training sprouted up other types of rocket inspired practices, such as rocket beads. So that was actually, the very beginnings of that lineage as well. So here I am, in my 30s, flying by myself to England. And for me, it was very natural, because I had already been flying by myself basically since I was 16 years old. I was always looking to visit somebody or to get out of town. And that's always been my nature a bit, is traveling. And what's funny is today I get messages and people are like, "Are you in town? Are you in town?" And I'm like, "Yes, I'm in town." And people always think that I'm always out of town, which is kind of funny. So anyhow, and I was able to get my own Airbnb in Brighton, England, and have some independence of just being my own person and not really feeling like I had to be a mom, or, whatever other roles we play. So when I got back from Brighton, England, that had started a buzz. People started noticing that I was traveling and teaching, and they were interested to hire me to come to their locations and to help them get things going more. And so the next training that I got invited to was Nicaragua. And this was in 2015. And this is all the early stages of rocket, okay? So imagine in 2015, I've already been instructing rocket for 15 years, okay? So I I almost missed my flight to Nicaragua. It was the very beginnings of Uber drivers. And I had like the worst Uber driver. And I said, "Listen," I said, "I'm very important cargo. I'm like, don't make me miss this flight." And I flew down to Nicaragua. And at that time, I was working with the owners of Stockholm, Sweden, Katarina, God rest her spirit. and Edwin, who was running It's Yoga Nicaragua. Nicaragua, for me, seeing how that was 11 years ago, it's only in reflection that if people ask me what my favorite trainings have been, I would definitely hold Nicaragua in super high esteem. And I would hold it in high esteem because we were in such a natural environment to do a rocket training. We had a private beach in Ashtianal, and that training was so powerful. It wasn't necessarily a really big training, but having, the staff that lived on the beach preparing all of our meals that were made by all locally sourced food, and having sea turtles hatch while I was in Nicaragua. The sea turtles hatched and they were on the beach, and they crawled up to my hut because I had a light there, and they thought my hut was the moon, and so the sea turtles just gravitated right towards me, and we put them in a laundry basket, and we took the sea turtles down. Edwin and we took the sea turtles to where everyone was meeting for breakfast, and we learned how to release sea turtles. So this was very, 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 very sacred and very powerful. The sea turtles have to get released kind of far back on the beach, like where their natural eggs would be. And so then they get their little sea legs when they go into the sea. And when they get those little sea legs, they figure out how to go back there year after year. So that's one of my dreams, is to return to Nicaragua and see my sea turtles while I'm living on this earth. And those sea turtles will probably live a lot longer than me. And, when you're going through all these experiences, it makes you treasure life more, and it makes you value your loved ones more, and it creates a very strong value system for yourself, and valuing these incredible people that studied and knew Larry Schultz. You know, Edwin and Katerina both had It's Yogas, and those were the people that I was working with, is direct lineage of Larry Schultz. And so, every training then gets a little buzz. So Nicaragua was truly fantastic, and I didn't want to come back. I never want to come back sometimes, but I have to come home. And then the buzz was getting out a little bit more, and I got invited that within by 2016 to Vancouver and New Mexico, Las Cruces, New Mexico. And so these were some of the early rocket trainings where I was traveling and teaching. While I was in Nicaragua, I met Johanna, and Johanna was is living in Costa Rica. And so that's how we started doing the Costa Rica retreats. And so you'll notice, if you're following my stuff at all, that I just got back from Costa Rica, because it's such a beautiful place that I just felt so inspired by the Pura Vida lifestyle. And every time I'm in Costa Rica, I feel like I'm home. Besides, Cincinnati. So, these are some of my top places: Nicaragua, Costa Rica, and so anyhow, uh, So lots of things, transpired. Okay. Lots of things were transpired in the rocket community. And, like, basically, everyone was trying to figure out, how to get organized in the rocket community, yada, 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 yada. Well, I was really just keeping my drishti on growing my rocket program at Yoga Oz Studio because I had a rocket studio where these practitioners were already practicing Rocket 1 and Rocket 2. So when people would come in from other places, and some of my early trainings of in Cincinnati, for Rocket, I had people gravitating from all over the world to learn the system. And it worked really well because my studio was offering those types of classes. So they could kind of have this immersive experience. And then it was in 2020, amidst the pandemic, I got involved with a couple studios in London, and I subsequently got invited to teach. Actually, before before 2020, I actually did another training in London at a studio called Chroma. That was really interesting. It had all these crazy lights. You might see photos in that from that. And then subsequently in 2020, 22, and 23, I did three more rocket trainings in London. Uh, so, I was really one of the first people traveling and doing these trainings. So it was always been something very dear and near to my heart. I also traveled to Ireland and did medicine rocket yoga workshops in Dublin. Oh yes, and then there was also Belfast. So there's been so many cool stories from each one of these places that I want to share these experiences with you. And I also want to say that traveling and teaching yoga can be very glamorized, and it can be seen as a very glamorous kind of job. But I will say that no matter what, as fun as yoga is to share, and, I get to lay in Shavasana within every 2 hours that I'm working, it's very intense, energetic work that's happening. And it's the type of work that usually before I do a on-site training that is out of town, I arrive early so I'm not jet lagged. I prepare months before by starting to cross train more, starting to work out more, starting to work on my diet more. So when I arrive at the training locations, I'm a little bit more prepared mentally, spiritually, and physically. And this is the real work of Emerson yoga. Okay. I know instructors that travel and teach, and they get off of a flight and they go straight to teaching, and then they get on another flight and then they go straight to teaching, and it's very taxing, okay, to do it that way. And I don't necessarily it's a very instructing yoga, it's a very intense profession because everybody is always looking at you for the uh, looking for you to lead the yoga lifestyle, looking for you to maintain a code of ethics. And that part can put a lot of pressure on a yoga instructor, and things can get a little bit weird. That's the easiest way. That's the easiest way to say it. So I definitely have seen a lot traveling and teaching, and you learn a lot. You learn a little bit more how to get better rest. You learn a little bit more how to eat better on the trainings. But mostly, what I'm learning is, over the years, is really to ask for more and expect more of the people that are hosting me and expect more of the studios that want to hire me, because we're talking about 26 years of experience of teaching. And we're talking about leaving your families, risking flying. And I will say risking flying these days, because traveling right now and airports can be another challenge. I've been grounded in many different airports for very long periods of time where I've had to get really creative. I have a video of me doing Rocket 2 in Reykjavik, because I had such a long layover there. And ultimately, if anything happened, you're risking, you could get displaced. Okay. If something happens and planes are grounded, which we've seen in our history. It happened with 9/11, and it happened during the pandemic, and it's definitely a risk. And these are all the things that I have to consider when I'm considering to teach and travel. And a lot of teachers do not talk about the logistics and having the right representation for them to, you know, um, really get their expenses taken care of in a timely manner. And so, a lot of yoga teachers that are going out there to travel and teach are paying a lot of things out of pocket. And this isn't so glamorous, okay? Because often we are we're the ones bringing the value to the whole thing, the program, but often we are the last ones to get paid. Everybody else gets their cut before we do. And it's not saying that we might not be getting paid well by the end of it, but it's saying literally from our talents that we are essentially helping out a lot of people, from the studio itself that's going to be bringing in that money, the people that work the airport from us buying our flights, all the places that we buy food from when we travel and teach, the Airbnbs we rent, the it really just goes on and on and on. If we're using a copy place, the people that we support, that make our copies for our materials, all these other people. Okay, and this is my experience, and this is maybe why maybe I have to kind of rethink, everything that I'm doing right now, because there is a lot of value, okay, when you invest as much time into something as I've done. I've invested 26 years into teaching, and no matter what, I have continued to do it. And, you know, the kind of thing, like looking ahead. So, looking ahead, I'm going to be traveling to Kentucky, Louisville. I'm going to be traveling to a couple places I can drive to. And I'm also offering training here in Cincinnati. And Cincinnati is just such a beautiful place to visit. It's such a welcoming city. We have so many amazing and affordable places to stay, beautiful and affordable food, and a beautiful studio to practice in. Uh, so this is just a little bit of tidbit share about some of the traveling and teaching, the challenges, the fun parts, the whole thing. The whole thing. It's very interesting type of work to get into. I'll tell you that. But like I always say, and I've said this before, yoga found me, and I'm not really sure where I would be without it, but it definitely has its blessings and its challenges. So I want everybody to be inspired today and stay inspired. And I look forward to sharing more with you. Okay, we are just skimming the surface. So if you have any questions, put those questions in the chat. Put those questions in. And I look forward to opening up these discussions more. All right. Peace and love, everybody. Namaste.